call the meeting to order if you're ready.
Sounds great. Pressures feels like it's on as Gary's not here today. So I'll see what I can do, Neil. So everybody, please bear with me.
We got your back, sir. Not a problem.
Thank you, Neil. You're about to see a litany of errors. Okay, so why don't we call the meeting to order and let's jump right in with roll call. Gary Delvo. Gary's not here today. Matt Schuler's here. Alder Barb Dorf.
Alder Dorf is excused today as well, Mr. Schuler.
Okay. Debbie Dean.
Here.
Kathy Hinkfus.
Here.
There we go. Hi, Kathy. Melanie Parma.
Here.
And I do believe then we likely have someone new attending today based on the agenda and a new face out there. Bridget Reardon.
I'm here.
Bridget, you just want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. My name is Bridget Reardon. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for Ensight and Cellcom. And I live in downtown Green Bay. I live in the Rail Yard District, and I'm a huge fan of our city and all things that can go well. So that's me.
Yes, and Bridget is proudly living right in an RDA development site.
There we go.
We have TIF money because of her.
Right, exactly.
Thank you, Bridget.
Just doing my part.
Welcome, Bridget.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. Okay.
You guys sound like a lot of fun. So this has already been fun. So you never know what you're going to get, right?
We're always really calm and gentle on your first meeting, just so that you'll sign up to come again. Okay. Let's move to approve the agenda for today's meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Melanie and a second from, was that you, Kathy?
I think that was Debbie, I believe.
From Debbie? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Nope, don't see any opposed. That's great then. Let's move on to item D then, approval of the minutes from the May 11th meeting of the Redevelopment Authority. Do we have a motion for that?
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Kathy and a second from Melanie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, great. We are through 4 agenda items already. I think it's going to start slowing down now. So we'll move into regular order of business, which is consideration with a possible action on a development agreement with 200 North Monroe Propco LLC regarding the development of the properties located at 227 North Quincy, 221 North Quincy, 624 Pine Street, 618 Pine Street, 616 Pine Street, and 605 Cherry. Request for tax incremental financing assistance for the project. And Neil, why don't I hand off to you here and give us an intro to the project? We're all excited to hear.
Absolutely. I will try to start sharing my screen here just so we make sure we've got the information. Hopefully, as everybody can see, PowerPoint slide. Perfect. Thank you, Melanie, for the thumbs up. Thank you. So yeah, we will go ahead. Obviously, this is a project we've been working on. Staff has been working on for quite some time. We're excited to have it at this point. So we'll just kind of hop right into it here. The project as proposed is a 5 to 3-story mixed-use building structure. It's because it varies in height as it goes around the site. Facing Monroe Avenue, about 172 market rate apartment units in a mix of studio 1, 2s, and 3s size units. Ground floor grocery, approximately 15,000 square feet, which we'll get into a little bit more detail here in a moment, and then an additional 7,000 square feet of other retail space. The project is proposed to be completed by December 31st, 2024. The estimated project value is about $22 million. The minimum valuation that it has to achieve to qualify for at least a prorated part of the promised TIF assistance is $17.6 million. The city investment in this project is essentially an 80% annual increment after recovery of the city's acquisition costs for this property. And then it will require a new TIF district to be created. So with that, would like to just I'm going to kind of quickly go through. Here's the site location. This is Monroe Avenue here. This is Pine Street here, Quincy Street here, and Cherry Street here. So to give everybody here an idea of exactly where the project is. I'm just going to very briefly show some slides, but then the developer is here to kind of provide a more detailed walkthrough of the architecture. So we're certainly very pleased with the concept has been done here. Specifically, the grocery tenant we'll be looking at is actually Main Oriental Market. They're still in negotiations with the developer to secure the final location and space. But provided this, and unfortunately, Miss Terry Yang could not be with us today. She's traveling, but she did provide this particular statement, and she continues to work with the developer here to actually secure their space. So we're excited about the opportunities and the growth of this business that's already located right across the street here in this neighborhood, but this would be a significant increase in not only in the size of the retail facility, but also of the options affiliated with it. So we are excited about the opportunity being presented by that as one of the key commercial grocery tenants for this project, which has been a challenge, as probably the RDA members who've been around for a while can recall, has been a challenge to try to get this one secured here. So we're excited about this as a prospect for that particular use there. So with that, I'm going to kind of quickly go into if I can turn it over to the developer. I guess technically, do we have to open the floor to allow the developer to provide some comments here and then address any questions that we might have? But they have a detailed overview of the architecture that I would like to basically turn that over to them at this point, if that would be acceptable, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and I would be open then to a motion from someone to open the floor.
I'll make a motion to open the floor.
We have a motion from Melanie, a second from Kathy Hinkfus to open the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, with that, the floor is open, and I'm not sure who's here from the developer, Neil, but would love to get some overview on the project.
Yep. Jason, are you going to start off, or Ted? Either one of you would like to begin some introductory comments, and then I will advance the slides regarding the architecture on your direction.
Yeah. Neil, I'll start. Ted Matcom, Gorman Company. As the RDA probably knows, we were awarded the opportunity to develop this site. We originally proposed a WIDA tax credit development that unfortunately, with a different grocer, didn't go anywhere because the census tract changed by the time that we had submitted to the time that we were awarded. And unfortunately, the points didn't line up, so that did not work. But in that that was given to us, we pledged to the Green Bay community that we would help foster and facilitate a market rate development. And that market rate development was always based on a grocer, which is now the Main Oriental Market, which we're extremely excited about. A grocer who actually kind of complained the original grocer that we came in was not local, which is true. And she said that she could do a great job in this, had a great vision, showed us that vision, and kind of blew us away on her presentation, which is too bad she couldn't be here today. But she's got a great vision that we're working through. And Mike Klein, who would be a partner of ours, and then also Jason Korb, who is the architect. They've developed a revised vision of what we originally were thinking here to be a market rate development that would be a bookend to this side of downtown with a grocer. And we do have another retail user who actually I think is on the Zoom call, Mike Alexander, who's the chancellor of UW Green Bay. Not sure if Mike's on. Mike, are you on?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. So Mike, we brought Mike on because we've been having very, very preliminary discussions with him about his vision of what a space for UW Green Bay would look like in the downtown. This site caught his eye just because of the proximity to downtown. And we've got about 7,500 to 10,000 square feet, which is available, which he was going to talk about briefly today. Mike, do you want to just give us your take on that?
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Ed. It's good to be here with everybody. Thanks for the time here. We're very excited about the possibilities here. It's exactly the kind of space that we're looking for to move possibly for years. The university's been requested to move downtown, to have its presence downtown. This is the kind of space we definitely need to be successful in doing so. So a few options for us would be, and there's a whole long list here of things we're considering, but a few of the highlights would be to move their Center for Civic Engagement. So to completely connect what we're doing in civic engagement in the place where the civic engagement is actually occurring, which is really important. To move, we have one of the largest continuing education community engagement programs in the state, over 70,000 people that we work with each year, to take a portion of that and move it here again to have more direct connection to the city. Third is to have a resource center for students that are living in the area to come to be able to fill out FAFSA forms, to have help filling out college applications with us and NWTC, possibly with to think about the how to support students that are underrepresented downtown that may want to have continue their education past high school, and then finally to have a flexible space that we would use for all parts of the university that can use for programming and other aspects that we could bring to the downtown area. So we're really excited about the possibilities here.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Thank you.
There. And
Ted, we're losing you. Okay, looks like Ted,
but we're working towards that. Yes.
There we go. Now you're back. You were frozen up for a second there, Ted, but now you're back.
Sorry about that. I was just saying that we're still in the preliminary stages for both the grocery and UW Green Bay, but very excited and wanted to just present those retail users to the RDA prior to Jason Korb's tour of the site architecturally, which you could do right now.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jason, can. Thank you.
Great. So this is Jason Corbett, KA, here in Milwaukee. Just walk you around. So the site is huge, right? And so one of our bigger discussions with staff was actually how to fill it up in a way that makes sense, because earlier versions of this building included less building and more parking. And just through a series of meetings and working sessions, we kind of determined that much surface parking was not really appropriate in a downtown environment in 2021. So we added the wing that you see on Quincy Street on the right hand of the image here. Can you jump to the next image, please, Neil? Very quickly go through the plans. As you mentioned, it's aside from the retail, it's 172 apartments. In a basement underneath the building, we have 171 parking spaces. So one more in there, I'll be 1-for-1 in the basement. And then, and it's entered from the southeast corner of the site. So that sort of appendage you see in the lower right is a ramp down to that basement. Next slide, please. And as you mentioned, the ground floor is anchored by 3 very tall retail spaces. Upper left hand would be a grocery component. The lower left would be imagined hopefully as some kind of destination restaurant component with a south-facing outdoor patio. And then the northeast corner would be space that could potentially by UW Green Bay. On the Quincy Street wing, we've added 8 townhomes because Quincy Street's not really a retail street. It's a little quieter and more residential, so we've placed 8 2-story townhomes on it. In the lower right-hand corner, you can see where the parking to the basement enters and then ramps down inside the building. And then above that, we have an additional 21 spaces, I think, for additional residential parking on the ground floor. In the center of the site, hopefully, our hope is activated both by the grocery store and a restaurant. We have a kind of a semi-public plaza that sort of wraps around the building. We did maintain approximately 64 retail parking spaces because retail, it's no reality that retail does need proximate parking. We've broken the building, as you see, into what sort of appears to be 3 or 4 pieces just to break down the scale, including a curb cut where the current alley is, which a truck could drive through and then back up to a dock to service the grocery store. And then, the site is 100% impervious, and we haven't done a deeper dive on our civil engineering, but, we do feel it's going to be both appropriate and necessary to have some stormwater management. And so part of the agreement has a percentage for art in the project. And so we're hopeful to create some kind of water feature that both functions as public art and, again, helps to try to create a destination, as well as helping to manage stormwater that hits the site. Next slide, please. So the second floor, what you're seeing is the white spaces are just open to below because the retail spaces are very tall. And then on the Quincy Street wing, we did tuck in a second floor under what's called the podium lid. So that is the second floor of the townhouses. And then we start to see some apartment units facing towards the plaza. Next slide, please. Here's our first full floor of apartments. So they're color coded by unit room count. So we have, again, sort of, our northeast and northwest corners are 3 bedrooms. The light green are 2 bedrooms. And then we have a combination of 1 bedrooms and what's called junior 1 bedrooms, which is a fancy way of saying it's a 1 bedroom with a square footage that starts with a 5, not a 6 or a 7. The dark blue areas are building shared amenities for the residents. So we'll have a fitness center, we'll have a community room or club room, and then the roof sort of facing southeast there would be a roof deck that the club room occupants could use as outdoor event space. Next slide, please. Again, now we're getting into a typical floor of units, not much more to add here. Except as Neil mentioned early on, this is the last floor where the building occupies its entire footprint. It starts to step back on the next slide, please. So now we see, and again, it's just a lower scale and more residential street. Our Quincy Street wing falls off. We are exploring another roof terrace on the roof of the Quincy Street wing. Next slide, please. This is 5. Yeah. So this is the top floor. Again, fully residential with the west-facing dark blue shaded area is more community space. And we have carved out, this drawing's a little bit out of date, but to the south of that blue space where that indentation is now an outdoor west-facing terrace. The developer was interested at this height of being able to capture views of Lambeau Field, which we believe we will, as well as great views of downtown. Next slide, please. So here we are looking from the southeast back towards downtown. So we're looking at the Quincy Street facade. So the lower part of that facade is our 2-story townhomes with apartments above. You can see some of the rooftop amenities that we're providing. There'll be a lobby for the space, hopefully occupied by University on the corner of Quincy and Pine. And then you start to see the plaza in the background. Next slide, please. So here we are looking north and a little bit east, again, back towards sort of the more residential neighborhoods you start to see coming in. So you can see the building is scaled up, as Neil mentioned, as you start to look towards downtown. You start to see that we've sort of started to develop a water feature facing southwest, which we think will be great. We are proposing that the retail space facing that plaza have either bifold or overhead doors so people can filter in and out on nice days. The materials you're seeing here are a combination of brick and fiber cement. So as we sit here today, anything that's white is imagined to be brick. And then anything that is dark is a more lightweight, or even the colorful components as well, are all lightweight fiber cement board. Please, next slide, please. And here we are with sort of a ground's eye view of, what we're starting to describe as a water feature, and we may have some sculpture or other elements here. And then we have some outdoor gazebos and cabanas to sort of make the space more usable, even in sort of the shoulder seasons, if you will. And so this is the southwest corner of the building. Almost every apartment in the building as we sit today does have a balcony. So these face west, so they'll get great daylight in the afternoon. Next slide, please. And here we are from Monroe Street looking due east. So one of the things that we wanted to do, as I mentioned when we started, was that this is a huge building. And so we wanted to break it down into sort of more relatable scales. And so you can see that cut, to the immediate north of the brick that comes up the building. You can see the terrace on the top floor of that cut. And then you can kind of see that so it's not so monolithic. We sort of, on Monroe in particular, we sort of peeled it back from the street as you head south. And that's A, to create some interest, and B, to really make it not so overwhelming, because it is, as I said, a very large building. Next slide, please. And then just another vignette of what this could look like on a summer night. So we're almost as excited about the outdoor space as we are about the building, because again, the goal is to really create a destination. And I think, Neil, that's our last slide.
We'd just like to kind of hop in, consumers back on. What's this here? Just to kind of finish up again, the overall increment valuation is this a pay-go TIF? Obviously, this is not an upfront cost. There is no public infrastructure related, at least at this point, no, that we are aware of at this point. The developer is kind of charged with providing us, a detailed budget of TIF eligible improvements as part of their overall development budget. There is a section in the agreement that covers that specifically. Obviously, with the I think both the commercial market use and the UWGB use in here, those check a couple of pretty major boxes, I think, in terms of staff and I think previous RDA discussions in terms of the type of activity we'd like to see for the commercial component for a building like this. So certainly, and then I think just the last comment we want to make is sort of the 80% increment is consistent with the term sheet that was previously discussed with the RDA at an earlier date. So with that, I think both staff and the developer are available for questions.
So I'll just a couple, real quick here, Neil. So first of all, Cheryl, this question is for you. So 172 market rate apartments. We've been talking about the housing study recently, some of the recommendations and implications of that. And I know you're way more familiar with that than the rest of us. So just kind of tell us how that project and the housing study fit together.
Well, ready. So we're looking to create anywhere from 300 to 500 units a year to make our goals going into 2040. And I just did an email which listed all of the housing projects that we have coming forward. This, I think, when it originally started, I think there was going to be some workforce housing. And this, I don't think, Ted, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is not considered high-end housing on this site. It's really going to be market rate with regards to who can be renting the units there. I think the city has got some irons in the fire with affordable housing projects. Most recently, you just saw the Impact 7 project that came at the last RDA, which is going to be more workforce related. We have some RFPs that are going out this summer. So, I think overall, looking at this project and the fact that it's bringing a grocery to the downtown, I'm okay with the makeup of the units on this project. Knowing that we've got more affordable coming down the pike.
Okay. And then,
Something more specific, Matt, with regards to that you were looking for, or?
no, just, the concepts of the housing study, a lot of work was put into it. And, here's another big project coming forward, which is great. And just wanted to see if we saw things there kind of fitting together. Would love to have a little bit of comments from the developer. And I don't know if this is you, Ted, or someone else, but just around the timeline, I thought it said, opening by December of 2024. So would love to get a little thoughts on, hey, what's the timeline that's projected for?
Sure. This is Mike Klein. Right now, we're getting construction numbers in, and they are coming in a little bit high. So we have until the end of 2022 to start construction. But if we get numbers, better numbers in quicker, we will start. I think we the ability to close on the land anytime in 22. So we would absolutely go ahead and do that. But once we start construction, we had some talks with our contractors this morning. We think this is somewhere between a 17 to 20 month project start to finish. So those are kind of our parameters that are out there. And I think we kind of have an absolute worst case in there of a 2-year construction timeline. But in an ideal world, if the construction numbers start coming down towards the end of the year, we think we would be able to start construction sometime in the middle of next summer or early fall. If they don't, then it's going to push towards the end of 2022.
Okay. Got it. And then Neil, if on the PAYGO, if you could just kind of walk us through a little bit of the, hey, what do you see as potential risks or pitfalls as you're looking at the project right now for the city from a finance TIF standpoint? Where in understanding it's a PAYGO, which we really like, and how that helps us balance risk, but just kind of give us your concept on that and how you've gotten to the agreement that's been negotiated to this point.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. And so essentially what we've looked at is obviously the PAYGO is certainly the preference. There is not an upfront request. There is the investment that the city has had in terms of investing and acquiring the site in this case. So this is a little bit different than some of the other parcels and properties that we have dealt with, and that the city did have a significant investment in acquiring the site. So what our main concern is certainly getting a project in the ground in a timely enough fashion to certainly generate increment to pay ourselves back to recover that investment in acquiring that property. And then once we've done that, moving forward with the 80% annual increment on a pay-go basis with the developer for the creation of the district now. So certainly the risk is if for some reason the project didn't move forward, we certainly have debt service that we still need to pay for on that lot, because we've done that. So obviously the faster we get a project in and the more value for a project we get in, certainly the faster we're able to cover that cost and take care of that debt service that we currently have on the lot itself. But in terms of risk and pay-go basis, we've tried to identify, obviously with things being what they are in terms of construction costs and other things, and whether or not those being higher and how much does that actually translate into a project value going forward. Our assessing department has done a pretty phenomenal job in terms of, kind of taking the business plan information from the developer, projecting that forward on an income basis and trying to come up with a value. So we are comfortable. $22 million is a conservative estimate. We think that this project is likely to be worth more than that. So in order to do that, we've kind of got that, that was the number we knew in terms of cash flow and working it together. We knew that was kind of the magic number that certainly everybody was comfortable with, including our finance staff. But we also have built in, if for some reason it doesn't come in at that number, it comes in lower, which we don't think is very likely, there is a prorated amount. They have to at least generate at least $17.6 million in value in order to qualify for any assistance. And that would be a proportionally reduced amount of TIF assistance compared to the value. If for some reason it came in at 17.6 instead of 22, the proportion is lowered significantly. If it comes in less than that 17.6, the project does not qualify for any TIF assistance. So we do have a basement that a minimum performance level that we are requiring to make sure that it's level. So staff is pretty comfortable in terms of the number being, the projected value being conservative enough. We don't think there's going to be much problem in hitting that. So we did kind of, just to be on the safe side from the developer standpoint and from our own cash flow projections, we did still want to require that kind of that secondary basement, that it needs to at least be a certain amount to qualify for at least partial assistance going forward. So overall, the risk for the city, certainly once the debt service is paid, is fairly minimal in this project.
And Neil, could you just explain, is the debt service the first, is 100% of the increment go to debt service until debt service is extinguished, or how's the schedule work on that?
That, and I was asking if Diana is on, if she's actually can answer that specifically, but the intent is to cover that cost to the extent that we can, and obviously in terms of getting that in fast enough, and that's certainly making sure the more value and the earlier we get in, the faster we're able to pay that off and get that over to the pay-as-you-go model towards the developer. But it is our intention, I think, to cover that debt service first and foremost. And Diana just hopped on here, so.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that Neil just stated.
Okay.
Thank you.
I love it when I'm right, Matt. That's great. So
We just wanted to emphasize that point, right, Neil, that you were right.
yeah, well, I'd rather be lucky than good sometimes. It's nice to have Diane on to make sure to keep me on the straight and narrow. So,
and I don't want to hog the floor here. And are there other questions? I think, Kathy, you were just raising your hand and you're on mute. So if you can just unmute so we can hear you.
So she's working on it here.
It's still showing that you're on mute, Kathy.
All right, there we go.
There you go.
A couple of questions. The one thing that I did notice when I went and I read, and I was looking at the contract, it basically said, and I apologize for the plane, that the debt service to Green Bay, as far as the 1.2 million that we were just talking about, looks like it's paid at the end of the contract, not the beginning? Or did I read that wrong?
I believe the intention is to have that covered first, Kathy. So if there's a point, maybe hopefully you have to double check. Is there a particular language reference you need to take a look at?
I think I circled it because I was like, where did that come from? And then because I was reading everything up front. And then the last question is more about, goes back to what Matt had asked regarding the market rate apartments. Originally, I think this development was going to be 70 units with a percentage of them to help with housing assistance. And I mean, based on what's been in the newspapers, the stories that are out there, do we have an option to make any of these? What is the downside to making a portion of these eligible? Because I even think UWGB students are going to be looking for some assistance. So it just saddens me as a community member and a member of the RDA that we wouldn't have some of these apartments so that we can keep people working in Green Bay and keep our businesses going. So, and
staff did take a good look at that, Kathy, when we were working with the developer in terms of reevaluating that. And, I certainly want to emphasize Assistant Director's Cheryl's point of, again, looking at the overall number of units that are in the pipeline. And the housing study was very clear, saying it required, really to address this shortfall, it needed units across the entire full spectrum. So what we're seeing is, and I think we're actually very excited about, is that we are actually seeing at least 3 or 4 different income levels with projects that are in the pipeline right now. So we feel that it is an appropriate use in this particular case. And it is always a little bit of a difficult charge in terms of a TIF district, in terms of balancing affordable housing within a TIF district versus, because obviously the way these projects are valued is based on income. So when you put in an affordable housing project, it immediately reduces the income on a particular project and does make it more difficult for it to cash flow. Thus, the reason for TIF assistance on those types of projects. So, certainly, I would have certainly welcomed it in this particular project here, but felt that the value of the project, in addition to the commercial tenants that we're looking at on here, really kind of outweighed the possible, and that paired with the fact that we know we have other more affordable units coming in within the same area, really in the downtown area, what made this project worth moving forward as presented.
Okay. Because, it's going to be done soon. It's one of them that are going to start right away. So, I just want to make sure.
Kathy, to a separate point, these are not, in the big scheme of things, these are not very expensive apartments. We underwrite it. We approve tenants that make 3 times their monthly gross income. So the junior ones or studio apartments here are going to start around $1,000. So that would mean to qualify to live here, you only need to make $36,000 a year. So it's not something where it's only people making 6 figures that are going to be able to afford to live here. We like the fact that there's going to be a broad spectrum of renters here.
Yeah, and let me also just buttress on that, Ted Mancom. This development really, as Michael indicated, is not high end. It's more the missing middle. And there are incomes that are targeted in low-income housing tax credit projects, Section 42 projects through WIDA that hit 60% of the county median income and below. This project is, in terms of the missing middle, like the 80% county median income to about 120% of the county median income. And then you've got your high end market rate. I think this really fits a niche in the downtown market that really will add value to the diversity of housing in the downtown market.
Okay. I just want to at least bring up the questions and the concern.
Absolutely.
Well, and
I trust Cheryl and her team, and
let me just tell you that as far as the department goes, that is something we are working on all the time and encouraging as staff when we talk with developers and meet with developers. And I also just want to remind everyone that these units also create that waterfall effect we talk about, where people who can afford to pay more but can't find a unit are renting at lower rates. So this helps to create that waterfall effect, which frees up some of the units kind of on for the less rent. Now that's not in place of just straight old affordable housing projects, but we're looking for those all the time. And like Director said, we've got some RFPs going out that we're going to be focusing on that.
Thank you both, Neil and Cheryl.
Matt, I have a comment. Matt's on mute, so I'll just...
Matt's still muted, yep.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to comment that there were some things for me that, check some nice boxes of approaching that large site, like Jason talked about, walking through that plan and being sensitive to the area. There's a public school, I believe, right across Quincy, right? I think, being sensitive to that, putting the townhouses in the lower portion over there, just speaking with, that context. I also think having that public school there and the conversation with UWGB and having space in that area, there could be a really nice synergy there, right, for those students at that school. So I think that's really exciting. Obviously, the grocery store is exciting. And I just have to comment, and this is not necessarily a negative on any of the other developments, but I was happy to hear brick and fiber cement. I was getting a little metal paneled out with some of our other developments lately. So that was nice to see as well. That's all.
And thank you, Melanie. And Alder Johnson, did you have a question?
Yep, thank you, Matt. Director Steck-Schulte, I think this is for you, since I don't know if Public Works is on the line, but when we, this has to be almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when we purchased this lot, one of the ways that we were obligating to handle the debt service was rental. And at least at the time, we were assured that there would be sufficient enough parking rental to actually handle the debt service on the lot. So do we know, like right now, assuming that happened, maybe it didn't with COVID especially, are there parking agreements in place right now that we have to relocate? And is there sufficient supply elsewhere to make those accommodations?
We do have language in the agreement, Alder Johnson, that requires when they're ready to close on the lot. There are existing leased parking spaces on this facility right now that we require. I believe it was a 45-day notice when they're getting ready to close. I don't believe that the parking impact is really that significant. There's not that many. I don't know exactly. I don't know if I have a hard number of exactly how many stalls are currently being leased on here, but it's certainly not, in my opinion, was not a number that could not be accommodated elsewhere, especially knowing that we have time going into certainly the rest of this year and into next year to try to identify alternatives for where those parking is. But I don't believe that there was enough spaces being utilized on this lot that it was going to be really a significant impact for the parking utility to lose those spaces.
Okay. And clearly my question isn't oriented at, hey, I favor parking over development, just to be clear about that. But it's just making sure that, again, we were under the impression initially that there would be enough parking revenue to handle the debt service, right? But obviously we're looking at the development agreement to assume that responsibility. So it was just trying to connect the dots on that a little bit. The one thing, in Ted and Jason, in particular, Ted, you may recall, we took a tour of this site a couple of years ago, and I toured you on some sites as well. And I just have to say that the only thing wrong I think you did with this design is that it's on the east side of the river. But other than that, I think you guys hit a home run. I really do. It's not often that I think designs come before this body that at least we don't look at it and think, gosh, I wish this was different or that was different. I think you did a really bang up job on the rendering. I'm really excited about the prospective tenants that could potentially move in there. And I appreciate the questions as well about the affordable housing. I think we all recognize that that's a need in our community, but so is market rate housing. And I think sometimes that gets forgotten, and we try to trump maybe the need of one over the other and say, I'd rather have this than that. But I think the reality is, if we want that to happen, we need state tax credits. And I encourage everybody on this call, contact your state legislators, ask for some additional assistance there. Ted tried to put an affordable housing development on this site, and the state tax credits didn't come through. And so that's why we have an alternative in front of us. And it's because it's the TIF incentive that's going to handle this. It's literally in the name TIF, tax increment financing, which means you need increment to make it work. And because affordable housing comes in at a lower assessed rate, as Neil alluded to, that's why this doesn't work in this particular scenario. So capital stack matters. And I try to have this conversation with a lot of people, why affordable housing doesn't work in certain circumstances. And this is an example of why, because it's the need for the TIF to make this development work. And then I just wanted to end by saying, we had some, one other thing too, by the way, and affordable housing, of course, recognizing its demand, we can't forget that we have put affordable housing stock on the market. Broadway Lofts, 107 units, affordable housing. It's only at 50% capacity right now. So if we know people who are looking, folks, we've got units that are available right now on the market for income qualifying individuals. And then initially too, when we first made the decision to exercise the purchase option on this lot, I think there was some public discussion about the fiscal responsibility, around the city's acquisition of this lot for $1.2 million. And I just want to point out, this is why you do those things. Strategic site acquisition is what leads to $21 million developments and investment in your community. When developers have to parcel that stuff together, the percentage of likelihood that you close on these deals shrinks. And so at the time, there was some questions, and deservedly so. There's always risk involved, but this, I think we're seeing the payout for when that happens, particularly when that site acquisition is positioned around in this case, a $10 million infrastructure investment, which was Monroe Avenue. So I think overall, very pleased with this. Great job to city staff for getting us in front of RDA. I think this is a good agreement, and it's going to help fill a lot of gaps that the city of Green Bay really needs to fill right now.
And this is Jason Corb. I can speak to the most important point you just made, Alder. I'm a Preble High grad. I don't go west of the river. Sorry.
And Alder Johnson, we're going to leave you with the quote of the meeting, which is capital stack matters. We're going to get T-shirts printed for our next meeting. We're all going to wear those. So thank you.
I can make that happen, Matt. I can make that happen. Everybody give me their sizes. I'll put that order in next week.
So no, are there any other questions? I didn't see any, but I want to make sure got an opportunity here for others to ask questions if they. Nope. Okay. And I know we've got on here the opportunity to go into closed section if we need to. And I want to open up that opportunity if anybody feels that we need to do that. But I don't want to force that just for the point of making the meeting longer. So does anybody have a need to go into closed session? And I'm seeing nope. Then I would take a motion on this agenda item.
Chairman Schill, I think just want to make note of the staff recommendation is that this document, as recommend approval as presented by staff, subject to review and finalization above the city attorney prior to going to city council. So with this, the agreement is drafted based on existing approved drafts and things that we've done, but it is still needs subject to review by the city attorney prior to going to city council. Just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Okay. Thank you, Neil. So do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the development agreement as Neil has laid out here for the Monroe Prop Company LLC regarding the development of properties at 227 North Quincy, 221 North Quincy, 624 Pine Street, 618 Pine Street, 616 and 605 Cherry, as well as the request for the tax incremental financing assistance for the project. However, this won't go to city council until Vanessa has had it.
Outstanding. Thank you, Kathy.
Great motion, Kathy. Do we have a second?
I would second.
We have a second from Melanie. Any questions?
Bridget. It was Bridget.
That's Bridget, the new girl.
I saw Melanie. I saw your
I
hand.
know. She beat me to it. She beat me to it.
I gotta get in here. I gotta do something.
Perfect. Bridget. You're on the record now. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Nope. Great. Then this is has passed and is going to move forward. And thank you to everybody that's been involved. Staff, the architects, developers, everybody working on this. Lots of questions and diligence and continuing to move this forward over the years. It's a really it's a project, and we are excited to welcome it to downtown.
Yes, we are.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Let's go to our second agenda item, which is consideration with a possible action on the request by Sharon Harper of the African American Community Parent Network to utilize the northeast quadrant of, I believe, what is this same exact property that we've just been talking about. So we better get this event in quick if we're going to do it. I think is the idea here. So Neil, are you taking this one?
Let's see, I think who's the staff
It's
on
actually Will.
I got this one. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we're going to get this in quick. So like you said, Sharon Harper, also of the Divine Temple, which is right across the street on Monroe. Every year they host a Juneteenth celebration. This year they would like to host it on, like I said, the northeast quadrant of this parking lot. Really, this event will consist of a music, public speaking, and an organized march. This event has already been in front of the Special Events Committee for the City of Green Bay, which is consists of fire departments, police departments, risk management, DPW, and parks. And this event has already been approved at that level. However, after it was approved, it occurred that this wasn't just city-owned property, it was RDA property and needed the approval of the RDA here, which is why we're bringing this forward to just kind of cross our T's and dot our I's. But as I said, the Special Events Committee of the city unanimously supports this event here. And if you'd like, I can pull up a map if you feel that's necessary.
Actually,
I've already got the one up. I've already got the one up.
Oh, you do? Oh, great. So I was looking at my report there, not the screen. So, yep, that's right. Yep, you got it there, Neil. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yep, so that's really the area that they're looking to occupy from 10 to noon on the 19th with a setup time of 9 a.m.
So a quick question, Will, is there anything that's been put in place so that the RDA is not taking on some liability with the event on the property?
Yeah. So everything's covered under the city's insurance policy. So every property that the city owns is insured through, or the RDA owns is insured through the city.
And in no way, shape, or form is the RDA like the target of the march or anything, is it?
No, sir.
That was a joke.
But it is open to members of the RDA. So if you'd like to come down, I know I'm going to try to make my way down there. Of course, pending its approval here. It should be a really great event.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay, in that case, then I would be open for a motion on this agenda item.
Motion to approve?
Got a motion from Kathy.
I'll second.
And a second from Melanie. Any other questions or comments? If not, then all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Nope. The motion has carried. So wonderful. And thank you for all of the pre-work on that, Will, and having known it went through the Special Events Committee.
Thanks.
Certainly made that pretty easy.
Yep, no problem.
As well. Let's go to the next agenda item number 3, consideration with possible action on a request from Greater Green Bay Habitat for Humanity to increase the awarded home funding for the construction of 216 North Clay Street, 1409 Elm Street, and 410 15th Avenue.
I think Krista Cisneros has the report for this one. Yep.
This is mine. Prior this year, the city of Green Bay awarded Habitat some home dollars to construct 3 properties, one located at 216 North Clay Street, one at 1409 Elm, and one at 410 5th Street. Due to the pandemic and the increasing costs of labor, they had submitted a budget at that time and requested $15,000 per build to fill the gap to make these units affordable. And pandemic hit, construction costs increased, material prices increased. So we received a request asking that the RDA increase those home awards to by $8,500 per home, making a total of $23,500 per home in home funding. I have done the underwriting. We have talked it over with staff, and we feel that this amount is it is an eligible amount underneath the home regulations.
And if everyone remembers our housing study,
yes,
we also need to create single family units in the price range, of that kind of 110 to 150. So Habitat has been a key partner with us in helping to create those units that are almost impossible to get in the city of Green Bay right now in that price range. So
motion to approve.
We've got a motion to approve. I think that was Kathy.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, these guys have been great partners, and I don't think it's unreasonable. So.
Yeah, and I'll second that. I think we all know that it's a real struggle. The construction costs are definitely up. That's not fabrication, that's real, and it's significant increases in costs.
So we have a motion and a second, and all those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Nope. Then that motion has passed, and we will increase the funding on each of the 3 construction sites for Green Bay Habitat for Humanity, and agree. Great projects that organization's been doing all throughout the city and the area. And
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Let's go to our 4th agenda item, which is consideration with possible action to approve a 6-month extension of planning options with Maker Solutions for 4-plex townhouse development at 115 South Van Buren Street, which is also known as perhaps the best street in the city. Right, Cheryl?
No. I thought it was South Jackson. This is Rhonda. Can I handle this one?
I'll take this one. Back in the March meeting of the RDA, RDA did approve a 3-month planning option with Maker Solutions for a multifamily, single-family, 4-plex townhouse development. We have since received a request for a 6-month extension from that original 3-month plan. And that is for them to be able to meet with more city planners, city financial institutions, developers, to make sure that they can get the scope of the development accurate. Staff is recommending that we provide them with a 3-month extension at this time, due to the fact that as the 6-month extension would be putting us towards the end of the year. The 3-month, if the developer was not able to move forward with this, it would still give us time before year end to be able to market for a new planning option. Therefore, our request at this time is to go ahead and give them a 3-month extension instead of the 6.
Well, and I think one of the things, and Ken, I think, is in the meeting today.
Yes.
What we received from him was the email that was in your packet. So if he had more information to share, that might give us a little bit more comfort level in extending that to us. Open to that. We just didn't have any of that information going into the meeting. So I guess that would be up to you. I mean, if you'd like to open the floor to have him speak to that, maybe he could share some additional information.
Yeah.
With the work that's been done.
Yeah, if Ken is here in the meeting, I would definitely suggest we open up the floor. So he is the, potential developer here, has the chance to, comment, give us more information. So do we have a motion to open the floor?
No. Motion, open the floor.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to open the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, floor is open. And Ken, is there more you would like to tell us about 115 South Van Buren?
Yeah, thank you. It's been an interesting journey here. It's starting out in development is not as easy as you would think, as the RDA makes it look here. But no, really the biggest hurdle that I've been looking for right now, landing an architect that can handle a project like this, that's on the one-off scale. I've had multiple phone conversations with architectural firms, and it's just something where it's kind of in that middle ground, where it's a little bit of, it's above a residential architect. They're not able to stamp these drawings. And for some of the larger architectural firms in town, it's just kind of too small of a project for them. I have a proposal from a design and development firm. I don't have anything signed with them yet. My clients are reviewing that, and I'm just waiting to hear back from them. The other little bit of a hurdle is finding a builder, and I have had communications with builders as well. Right now, I'm just waiting again to hear back from some, and it's hard to pinpoint them at this time. Some of the firms, some of the larger firms are more of like a design build. And with this one, I'm not ready to go into that step yet of the design build. If we have to, that'll flesh out here hopefully in the next 3 months. But yeah, right now it's just trying to get people to get on board with a new developer. So with that, with this proposal I have from the current architect, we're looking at probably about a 2-month turnaround on drawings from them. And then at that point is when the builder would be comfortable actually sending these out for bid documents or getting some of those prices finalized and or closer to where we would be comfortable taking it to a lender to actually get some financing on this. So that's kind of where the 6-month extension was coming from, is that right now we're probably, like I said, about 2 months out from even having the plans, and then, the turnaround on bid documents there, I'm not sure where we're going to be at. So I was kind of giving myself that 3 to 4 month buffer with the 6 month. Realistically, talking to the builders that I've spoken to, we're probably not going to be into the ground until springtime on this project. So that was really, again, where the longer extension was coming from. So I wish I had more information for you right now, but it's just been kind of little hurdles as I go here. So I have at this time, I appreciate you considering this extension.
I think that's more information. Ken, thank you for sharing that, because that was good to know that, you with the architect and the issues you've had with that. I'm wondering if the RDA would be okay with granting a 3-month extension and then allowing staff to move forward with another 3 months if Ken can come in with some plans within the next 3 months. So we wouldn't have to do the RDA route. We can just issue that 3-month extension at the end of this one. Because you'll know by then, I would think, Ken, after 3 months, if you could, right? If it's
absolutely,
or not. So
I feel like that's fair. Yeah.
I'd certainly be very open to that proposal, Cheryl. I think that's a really nice, middle ground and accommodation, and working with Ken as the developer in this standpoint, right? Understanding his circumstances and what's happening to try to move the project forward. So would we have a motion on a 3-month planning option plus then the ability for staff to extend it another 3 months?
Make that motion.
We have a motion from Melanie. Do we have a second?
And Kathy just seconded, I believe.
That's great. We're going to chalk you up for a second on that, Kathy.
Okay.
In favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Nope. We have it then. We'll grant a 3-month option here, Ken, with the ability for staff to extend it an additional 3 months if right, things are progressing forward. So looks great. And that one has passed. Let's go on to our next agenda item. And by the way, it's good to see you again, Ken. It's glad to know you're still out there.
Awesome. Thank you. And I appreciate working with me on this one. So have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. We'll go to our next one, which is consideration with possible action on a request from staff to use 2020 CDBG funds for the park shelter murals.
is this you, Laura, or is this Krista?
This is me. If Krista wants to help, though, she definitely can.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
So the RDA previously allocated $25,000 for public art in HUD qualified neighborhoods. After receiving input from our community session, input from the Public Arts Commission, and just working with our internal staff teams, we had determined that one of our best ways to utilize the funds that kind of hits on all of these needs groups is to put art within our parks. Hence, the park shelter mural program was kind of devised. Essentially, we are looking to install roughly 10 murals that are going to be installed on 4x8 plywood sheeting. So that way it can be removed from the park shelter easily. And then at that time, we can either repaint them with new work, or if the panel is deteriorated to a certain extent, we can replace it with a new panel. Since plywood is at a premium right now. Our costs might adjust a bit, but currently we're estimating around $18,000 to complete the project. And I've been working with Parks crew as far as determining locations for these shelter murals. If anyone has questions, I hope that that's enough information to go off of initially, but if you have any questions, let me know.
Are there any questions from anyone? I'm certainly not seeing any. No, it looks like if I understand this correctly, right, we've kind of earmarked 25,000. You've gone out, you've gotten some bids and cost less than that. So it's completely in line with what we were trying to do. And so it makes perfect sense.
Correct. And I should mention that Parks Committee has already reviewed the project concept and approved it pending your approval of allocating the funds.
Well, in that case, then there's no way we're going to do it. Okay. Do we have a motion on this particular item?
I move to approve.
Was that Debbie?
It is. I've been on mute.
I'm going blind here. I don't have your face up on the screen right now. So we have a motion from Debbie, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Kathy. On the motion, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No opposition. So the motion has passed. And wonderful. Another great project to move forward. Let's go to agenda item number 6, which is consideration with possible action on the award of CDBG contract CD 21-01 sidewalks, Arndt Street resurfacing and alley resurfacing to the low qualified bidder, Peters Contract Company.
Okay, this is me. These are our 2020 CDBG funds for infrastructure within the city of Green Bay. We have identified, or DPW has identified some projects within the shipyard neighborhood investment area, and we went out for bids. The bids came back on Tuesday, June 1st. We received 2 bids, and we're asking you to award to the low qualified bidder, who was Peter Concrete Company, in the amount of $220,741.60.
And Krista, I know we see their name quite often on these things. You're certainly feeling like Peters is well qualified to do this work.
Yes. We did receive a memo from DPW who went through the bids, and they are recommending the award of these funds to this contractor as well.
So given this item and the paving of sidewalks, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion from Melanie. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Was that Debbie?
Debbie.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Great. We are going to have sidewalks then. Oh, wonderful. Thank you all for bringing in those bids and putting those out. Much appreciated. Let's move to agenda item number 7, our last agenda item here on regular order of business, which is consideration with a possible action to accept a land donation of parcels 18-757, 18-766, and 18-48 from G&K Properties LLC to the RDA of the City of Green Bay for the purposes of future or current development. And Neil, I'm assuming you're going to take this one. And we have this trend kind of going on here with land donations. So please explain.
This one, I'm actually going to hand this one over to Will Peters, who's been taking care of this one. So.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Matt. Yes, and we received a call from John Kelly of G&K Properties, and just out of the blue, he was talking. They own these properties here on the west side of town, off of Emmett Street and Mary Street, that they've owned for a number of years. They're current on taxes. They just don't have any way of developing them. They're kind of landlocked. There's no utilities out there currently. So the challenge is for them to develop it just aren't just worth their time or investment right now, which is why they would like to donate these properties to the RDA. What's really great about these properties for our purposes is that they are connect other properties that we own in that block there. So if you look to the north there, we own the property along Emmett Street, and then there's a handful of properties that the RDA currently owns off to the east going down there. The G&K properties are highlighted in orange. That access in the middle, that kind of split where it almost seemed like there'd be an alleyway there, that is public right-of-way. So that could be developed, infrastructure could be put in for development. So our department really thinks that with this generous donation from G&K Properties, that would really assist us in putting more housing stock, creating more housing stock on the market.
Okay.
Well, and we've been approached already by a local developer who's interested in putting some homes, some smaller homes in that area on the west side, Alder. That's a lovely west side project that we could do. So I think it'd be a good idea if we could get these parcels. Plus, I think these parcels will be coming out of the floodplain in April of next year.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Which makes them even nicer.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Right.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the land donation.
A motion from Kathy. Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
Second from Melanie. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nope. Hey, then Cheryl, just based on having looked at that map, it looks like we ought to call Constance Shaw, who has about 4 adjacent lots there, and maybe just see if she wants to donate as well. So. No
like
pressure. No pressure. Okay, great. Now on to the informational section of the meeting, and first item there is an update on the housing study.
So as I mentioned before, we actually are going to be working on getting 4 RFPs out for properties that we own that we're going to get new housing on. I know if Diana is on the call yet. So increase the tax base. I have to say that after we accept the donation that just happened. So the goal is to get tax base on our vacant parcels. So so we're going to be working on that this summer. We have there's 2 housing committees that have been formed. One is through Brown County, which to sit on, which will be good because that's going to look at ways that we can incentivize potentially landlords, for example, to work with our housing choice voucher program, among other things. So those are, I think, some good communications to have. I think there are going to be members from like the apartment association on this committee potentially as well. So it's really bringing the groups together, which will be good. And then Neil and I were also asked to sit on a committee out of the chamber as well, which is looking at potentially some incentives for new housing creation. That's bringing together members from the business community. And then through our planning commission, we are working to change some of the minimum width guidelines for infill housing. Right now, if you're going to do a new house in an infill lot, it has to be at least 24 feet wide. And we're looking to change that down to a minimum of 22 feet, which will allow us to be a little bit more creative potentially with some of the new house designs that we have. So, and all the other stuff we're working on.
And there's quite a bit there, Cheryl.
Nice job, guys.
Okay, next is the financial report and check register. And Neil, is there something we need to do there?
I think for Krista, if has any comments or anything in the report, those are simply provided as obviously information purposes only at this point. But if there's any questions, Krista would be happy to answer them.
And I didn't have any questions. I don't know if anybody else did.
No.
It's nice. Now all the faces are back up on my screen. I can see everybody. So see when somebody questions. Okay, we'll go to the next.
Next month will be in person?
Oh, well, maybe that's coming here in the director's report and project updates.
So we will talk about that right off the bat. I did email a written copy of the director's report prior to the meeting, so I'll just kind of quickly go through that, just in order to provide trying to get those into the packet here a little more regularly. Just with the last minute work on the agreement, we didn't have time to get it in there. But yes, we are certainly. City Council has done their first kind of hybrid meeting back. I think for the most part it went pretty well. I think there's a few technical hiccups that obviously you just have to work on, and in terms of kind of getting that back to normal. Sort of still retaining some degree of a virtual presence, at least for the time being. But I would anticipate, I know certainly in discussions with Mr. Delvo, he would like to see us back in person, I think, as quickly as possible. So I would imagine at this time, probably in July, attempting to at least have some sort of hybrid meeting where we could meet in person. And if a few folks needed to still log in, we would probably be attempting to do that. But watch for additional instructions on that as we go forward on that. So, I was going to share my screen and show the rest of the director report, but since Matt likes looking at everybody, I'll just read through these and highlight these real quick.
You can show the report, Neil.
It's not that long. I can just go through it verbally. That's not a problem. Obviously, just a reminder: the merged development agreement has been approved and signed, and yes, Alder Johnson, we did confirm we have a signed copy sitting in the office today. So it was obviously for the folks who remember the history of this project. It's nice to get a signed document in place. So we are getting that and certainly getting that executed by the mayor's signature if he hasn't done so already. So, but we do have their signature on it, which is the important one. So, just for reminder, folks, council also did approve the guarantee related to the Bay Lake City Center building the other day, because that was essentially really an acknowledgement of if you folks remember, an acknowledgement of the guarantee that was really already in effect. It was simply acknowledging a change in the private financing terms that was related to that. We still are pursuing an updated MOU with the developer, with HCW. So if in fact we get that, we've asked to have that by August 1st. So hopefully that happens. We'd like to have something back to the RDA for discussion and review of that, hopefully prior to that, if that in fact we can make that happen. We are preparing for our annual joint review board meeting with all of our taxing jurisdictions here coming up. Probably will be either June 22nd or 23rd. That's where we'll provide kind of an overview of the financial status of all of our existing districts, as well as maybe a kind of a preview of maybe existing districts we may be taking a look at going forward. So that's obvious. That's a statutory requirement. We have to have that meeting every year with our taxing jurisdictions. So that looks to be coming up here in a couple of weeks. We are working on several RFPs. I think was mentioned several times here in the meeting. 436 South Monroe, which also is known as the Chicago and Monroe property, the 100 block of East Walnut Street, the former JBS site, and then the Adams Street parking lot. All four of those are in progress in terms of working on an updated RFP for those. We'd like to see at least the first two of those, I think the Chicago Monroe and the 100 block of East Walnut, issued here really in the next 30 to 60 days, get those out and on the street. We've got a little bit more work to do, I think, on the JBS site and the Adams Street parking lot. There's a little bit more complicated parcels, so those may take a little bit longer. So, but hopefully by late summer or early fall, have updated RFPs. Probably bringing those two RFPs back to this body for some comments and consideration as well before those go out. Ford at the rail yard, TWG, the developer is waiting to hear back from WIDA on tax credit application right now is kind of what they're waiting on. They also do have some potential design changes that they've had discussions with staff that we've been kind of negotiating back and forth on, attempting to kind of still keep some of the original design elements that we'd like to see in terms of the amount of commercial use and so forth with the project. But as soon as they have direction from WIDA, we should have hopefully an updated design and probably an updated development agreement that will need to come back to this body. Want to make a note, we've got a request from Milwaukee View, the Whitney School Development TIF request. We're asking for a reimbursement, but according to the development agreement, it's based on when the occupancy permit was issued, and that was not issued until January of 2020, which means the full assessment doesn't happen until just 1/1/21, which means the first TIF payment actually won't be until 2022. So we've sent that information back to them and asked them if they have a different take on that. We would like to see, if there's anything else we can do. Obviously, we're excited about the project and want to continue seeing their interest here in the city. So hopefully that will work. I just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of that request had come into staff. Legacy Hotel update. We've had a very productive discussion with the developer's construction company on the hotel project that they're looking at. Feel like they were very close to meeting all the code requirements we were asking for, but in the process of updating that development agreement in terms of timelines and so forth, coming back with that, in addition to making some pedestrian improvements, particularly on Tony Canadeo Way and Brett Favre Pass, and getting some landscaping and actually some good pedestrian improvements in addition to this fall. But so hopefully, again, that will also need to come back to RDA. So we will be bringing those back. Quick JBS update. We had a very productive meeting with the Green Bay Area School District and the Salvation Army, obviously two neighbors to the JBS site here. And they're very open to collaborating and open to kind of working on the RFP together and providing their feedback. It's kind of whatever project we do put forward for that. So excited to have a couple of partners. Also learned about some new developments that the Kroc Center is working on in terms of kind of an outdoor amphitheater kind of event space that they're working on outside, in addition to getting a little bit of information on some of the additional property they own right there on Line Kiln Road, right next to the Kroc Center, as possibly being available for some sort of project in the future. So very productive first meeting. We're looking forward to continuing our collaboration with them. One Astor project, we're working on easements have been secured for the extension of the Fox River Trail for this area. They're just being finalized. So essentially, we are setting up a meeting with the developer to kind of update that development agreement as well and to begin the TID creation process for that particular location. So we're anticipating that one again to come back here, probably here yet this summer. So another one still to come back to this group. A couple more here and then we'll be done. University Heights, we are currently working with DeVillers, the former developer, is looking about transitioning that site to Tune-In Properties and kind of picking up that project and moving it forward. Kind of working through what we think some of the public infrastructure needs will be. Now that there will be two owners on that site, not just one, there'll probably be some need for some public streets and infrastructure in that particular site development. As well as kind of updating the TIF terms with that particular project. But we are excited to see them and they seem to be motivated. Again, that will be an agreement that will also be coming forward back to this body here, hopefully within the next, probably at the next meeting is our objective. We've got a couple different requests from single-family in terms of, we mentioned single-family subdivisions here recently, hearing increasingly concerns from developers about the expense of public infrastructure to serve single-family residential subdivisions in terms of how to finance those and get those in place. Cities don't have a whole lot of options in terms of doing those, but we are kind of trying to be creative in terms of identifying what options may exist to help often offset some of those costs, whether that be, certainly everything from special assessments, deferred assessments. There are very limited TIF applications in this case that we're still trying to consider, but are not, again, statute's pretty clear that these are really not meant for single family subdivisions in most cases. So we expect this to be a topic of conversation for the foreseeable future from multiple developers in terms of trying to figure out how to get that going. We've had some conversations here recently about some interest in downtown design standards. Probably would be something that this body would be involved in. We're kind of looking around at getting some cost updates, excuse me, from some consultants in terms of developing similar standards that we've done for like the Legends District and the Shipyard, actually having some downtown design guidelines, particularly for this area, the areas in downtown, I think in both sides of the river. So we're seeing increasingly kind of demands and maybe interest in doing that. So we see that probably coming forward here, hopefully sometime this summer. Parklets update, the policy guidelines and application materials have been finalized. The grant program is live. You can actually go out to the city's website and we're encouraging that and people to get out and take care of that. And then a couple last ones here. Shipyard Corridor Study and Redevelopment Guide was approved by the Economic Development Authority. In my written memo, I've provided a link to that and just wanted to make that available if anyone is interested in kind of reading through that and seeing what some of those design guidelines really for the shipyard. Of course, this was a document that staff had been working on for quite a while. In addition, brownfield RLF policies and procedures were adopted by the EDA just at its meeting last night in terms of kind of providing loan funds and possibly sub-grants to particular users to help assist with cleanup in the downtown area. And one last note is obviously the next city council meeting is June 29th. There is no meeting scheduled for July 2021. Only throw that out there as a mention because obviously that could impact in terms of schedule of getting agreements approved. As I've mentioned, we have several in the pipeline coming down. Just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of that, and we're communicating that certainly to the development community that even if we get things in July, it won't be likely to be hitting a council meeting until August at this point. So that's everything. Lots of big list of what's going on. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them.
That's a lot, Neil, and thank you for the update and for preparing the written review as well. That's always very helpful. Were there any questions for Neil? If not, I certainly wanted to open up the chance for the mayor, if there was anything that you wanted to say as regards to a lot going on in the city. And I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to speak if you wanted to.
I don't think there's anything left to be said.
Not for Neil.
No, it's a long list, obviously, of projects that staff have been working on, and a lot of superlatives used for the development there on Monroe Avenue. I think they're all perfectly apt. It's an exciting project. It checks a lot of boxes for us, and I think it's really beautifully designed. So I'm very excited about that proposal in particular going forward, and just again thankful to all the staff that had a hand and our developers who put a lot of work into that, the architect and Mr. Klein as well for his work on it. So thanks to everybody who had a hand in that. I wish Gary were here though. I get him new member he's been asking for a couple meetings, and here's Bridget and where's Gary,
Don't feel bad for him, Mayor. He's out fishing somewhere. So
I believe it. No, but welcome to Bridget. Really glad that she accepted the appointment. I know she's going to do a great job for us.
Thanks, Mayor.
Agreed. You've made it through your first meeting, Bridget. Painful, so. Well, great. I think then with that, our next meeting will be Tuesday, July 3rd. Like we may be there in person, so we look forward to that and any guidance that's coming there. And Bridget, congratulations. You made it through your first meeting. And once again, to all of the city staff, thank you very, very much. A tremendous amount of work. You just prepared the items, I think, tremendously well. We just went through a lot of stuff in an hour and a half, and it's because of your preparation and the diligence you've done up front, to make it really easy to work through these items. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
And kudos to you, Matt. You didn't screw anything up, I don't think.
That's
perfect.
I said yet, but don't tell Gary I did awful, and we need him back badly. So
I don't know if he'll buy it, Matt, but we'll try telling him anyway.
Please do. Let's move to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Do we have a move and a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Have